Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Berry. I'm an instructor for the online sociology class that you are registered for. The goal of this video is just to provide a little bit of background about online instruction, at least the way that I approach it, my teaching philosophy, and then the requirements that are going to be needed, that are going to be necessary for the class in terms of what you can expect and kind of the skills that you need in order to be successful. Overall, the goal is just to kind of give you a little bit of that background information, kind of just provide some context about the class, and then just to make sure you're properly placed in the class as well. I'm here to support you, here to encourage success, here to set up a class for you to be successful. At the same time, it requires a different set of skills and a different set of work requirements compared to a face-to-face class. So I want to make sure you're properly placed in case, if you're not, this video may be able to help you kind of differentiate whether or not the class is going to work for you. I hope it does, but if it doesn't, I'd rather you have the opportunity to register for a different class, face-to-face class perhaps, in order to just make sure you get a full schedule, that you don't start off with sort of the bumpy start of a term trying to figure things out. Okay, with that said, sort of my kind of approach in thinking about an online class is that we just can't replicate what goes on in a face-to-face classroom. I'm not going to try to do that. So what my goal, my focus is every week as I put together a video giving you a little bit of background about the content for the week, say, okay, here's kind of the general focus. Let's talk about it for a little bit. I'll provide, usually 10 to 15 minute kind of an overview. I think those are really useful and helpful, and some requirements come out of that. So those are important, and then there's a lot of reading and writing. I approach thinking about sociology as a lot of development of critical thinking skills. It's a lot about an exposure to different ideas, and the only way to get that is through, I think a really powerful way to get that is through reading, listening to podcasts, watching videos, but just exposure to information. The more information you're exposed to, the better. On an average week, so it's kind of a reading, I'm not just going to say intensive, but the focus is on reading, listening to lectures, podcasts, and then watching videos, either feature films mostly, or documentaries, these kind of things. So my goal is to kind of create a structure of material that you can engage in and then reflect on, and then I kind of provide feedback throughout the course of the term about how well you're doing in terms of summarizing and applying ideas from the readings to the weekly write-ups. So those right there, so right, it's reading and writing, reading or listening to different things in writing. So you have to have fairly strong skill set in both those things. On an average week, I encourage you to look at the syllabus to kind of get a sense about how much reading is required. I'd say on an average week, I don't know, I'm going to say between 30 and 60 pages of reading. And I think you have to be judicious in how you read. Sometimes it's important to read from start to end. Sometimes it's important to kind of skim around, give yourself an hour or two to read and just try to get as much information you can out of that hour or two. I think sometimes as a student in class, we feel pressured that we need to kind of go through the whole chapter from beginning to end. And sometimes that can be really beneficial. It's not the only way to approach reading. You can approach it sort of diving into material, looking for kind of patterns and themes, kind of moving around. I don't know, you'll find your own way, but just kind of give a little bit of strategy about how to approach some of the readings. So it's probably a few hours of, my guess would be for the average student, somewhere around, 3 hours of reading or listening to or watching films every week. And then a few hours in terms of doing the written work. So I think you probably could expect my goal would be somewhere between 5 and 7 hours for the class, 4 to 6 hours for the class for each week, something like that. And the way I think about this too is if you were in a face-to-face class, you have 2 hours that you're in the classroom. There's 4 hours a week that you're in the classroom. So rather than focusing on that, you just have different responsibilities outside of the classroom. And I think after the class gets started, things will actually get smooth, just kind of roll a little bit faster. You'll be the best gauge of that. Okay, so you got to have, just sort of the time available to be able to dedicate to the class, the ability to kind of process information through reading, and then the writing component as well. Writing 121 is not required for the class, but I think it can be helpful to have. I mean, the stronger skill set you have in terms of writing, just the easier it is to do that work. Just as far as being organized, being able to sort of put things together in a coherent fashion in a fairly quick manner. So I don't know. In a given week, I'm thinking about one particular class. For there's an article, and the article requires 700, 800 words of summary. And so oftentimes in that particular class, there's 2 different articles, 2 different summaries, so somewhere between 1,400 and 1,600 words for the week, something like that. So that's kind of like an average week. It's a lot of responsibility on your end, but a lot of freedom on your end too. It's really my goal is to expose you to a lot of different information, provide background and context through videos, and then give you the opportunity to express your understanding through writing. And then I provide feedback on your work. So it's a lot of self-paced, kind of being self-paced, kind of working through material, and doing and sort of approaching it that way. Okay, so then and then I do a midterm. There's a midterm exam and then a final exam as well. And those are just more of an opportunity to reflect and summarize where we've been versus sort of engaging in a lot of new material. So my goal, or one approach that I take, is to be able to, here's content, we're moving forward, then every once in a while let's take a breath, let's kind of figure out where we've been, let's kind of like talk about some main themes and main ideas, and then use those as we move forward in the term, so that we're kind of learning new information, and then we're reprocessing information we already have learned, and that's kind of an approach. Anyway, so now talk about, I talked about sort of the assignments, approach, skill sets, and then talk about how I approach working with discussion board. Last year when I taught on a couple online classes, I asked students at the end of the term, I said, okay, hey, how was the discussion board experience for you? Did it work well? What are you looking for? Would you like to have more contact with other students, less contact? 95% of students said, I really didn't gain a lot from discussion boards. I'd rather just do my work. I'd rather sort of figure that out. Just kind of, I know what I have to do, and I just sort of just get rolling with that. And didn't see a lot of value, at least to how I structured the discussion boards and those kind of things. So there's no discussion boards. There's no group projects. I'm going to roll with it this term, to see how that works. And based on the feedback from previous terms, that is what students are looking for most students. And hopefully that fits you as well. But even though without the student contact, I want you to know that my goal is to break down some of the barriers between you and I, since we're in this sort of virtual environment. That's why I put together these videos, just so I can connect with you through a video format. It's not interactive, but at least you can kind of see me, and at least it becomes a little bit more closer to having a more virtual, just sort of an experience, of a one-on-one experience. And then the other part is I provide audio feedback on all assignments, so that way I can communicate. Again, it's just another way to communicate to you more directly and to personalize the class as best as I can. Please feel free to call me, contact me, set up a time during my office, outside of my office hours, or stop by during my office hours if you're out of town. Set up a time for a phone conference. I mean, I'd love to chat with you during the course of the term for sure. Even if you have thoughts and ideas about the class, how things are going, or you read an article, or you watched a film, you just want to talk about it, give me a shout, drop me an email. I mean, that stuff is great. It's always enjoyable to just have conversations about sociology. I love it. It's my passion. It's what I'm interested in. And if you have an interest in things or have other resources you want to share, I encourage you to do that. I'm here to help you. I'm here to provide support. My goal is to encourage a lot of development, expose you to a lot of ideas, get you interested and engaged in the subject of sociology, and hopefully just provide a nice experience for you for an education that you learn a lot, you work hard, at the end of the term, you feel good about what you've accomplished in the class. All right, so if you have any, I don't know, that's it for this. Just want to provide a little bit of an overview, again, with the overall goal of making sure that you are in a class that you're going to be successful in, a class that kind of know the general idea about sort of what's required as far as time and dedication, so you can make the right decisions for yourself as far as staying in the class. Yeah, I hope all is well. I'll drop some other videos as we go forward. Welcome to online social class. If you have any questions, feel free to call or email me. Have a great day.